when I was working at Google and you walk in the door and you get to see who you're surrounded and who your peers are, it's very apparent that that is like, there's a reason why their hiring process is so long and so kind of a little bit tedious, but just it's quite the complex, several hurdles that you have to get over before you actually get in the door. And I understand why those hurdles are so high now, because once you get in, they give you the kind of the keys to the castle and say, just go, run, make mistakes, learn. And they trust you a lot. And so for me, once we have, I know I have high quality talent to work with, it comes down to, if this were to go completely sideways, how big of screw up would it be publicly into our community? And if the answer is a 6 or above, I probably want to give it a little bit more hands-on attention. And if the answer is like an 8 or above, then I want to be heavily involved in that process, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's a kind of 5 or below, who cares? Like, let them make the mistake and go, because you just don't have time to look at everything, right?
Not only that, but you don't want your employees, and look, I think you're better at this than I am.
Micromanaging side, yeah,
exactly, right? It's like, you don't want them to feel like you're the teacher looking over their shoulder to like point out every mistake they make as they're working, which has been hard for me to learn, honestly, because I am such a perfectionist. I don't know if I told you this. Did I tell you that I was diagnosed with moderate severe OCD by a psychiatrist? Did I tell you this?
Oh, holy shit. That all makes sense now.
Yeah, exactly. What was funny is that I went through this long thing, and then the psychiatrist was like, okay, I feel like I have a very confident read on our current state of play and the diagnosis. And so he tells me all this, and he says, we're on Zoom, and he's like, I understand this could be a lot to take in. If you need time, we can take a break. If you want to hop off the call and pick up tomorrow. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. Like, what's next? That's fine.
Dude, it's so funny you say that. I've got an awesome new therapist that I'm really enjoying. She's amazing. And she's like, I want to refer you to someone because what you're describing sounds like ADHD. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. Like big surprise, like
shocker.
Yeah, shocker. It literally happened a week ago. It's amazing.
Yeah. I reached out to a couple of my ex-girlfriends who I'm friendly with, and I asked them, I was like, does this like square with your experience? And they're like, yeah, it squares with my experience. I was like, yeah, okay, confirmed. And this was just to provide the context, this was in the context of trying to determine neuroanatomical targets for something referred to as accelerated TMS, which I'm hoping to talk quite a bit more about, but I don't feel comfortable yet making any type of recommendation. But it is a new protocol with a very, I shouldn't say very old, but like 1980s-ish forward developing technology, transcranial magnetic stimulation. So it's brain stimulation for the purposes of minimizing or eliminating the symptoms of certain things like OCD, depression, generalized, or maybe it's just general anxiety disorder. I think it's generalized anxiety disorder, GAD. And I've become very interested in this because there are data related to something that's been called the SAINT protocol. I think that had too many religious overtones, so they abbreviated to, I think maybe SNT. It's a Stanford-based brain stimulation lab. There's some incredible scientists involved, including Nolan Williams, who's incredibly impressive to me, who have developed this protocol. And the magnitude of effect that I have seen in some of the data, this does not apply to all people, does not apply to all conditions, but shows a magnitude of effect that makes it equally as interesting to me as psychedelic-assisted therapies. It's the only thing I have come across in the last 5 years that approaches the amplitude of effect size that you see in some of these results. It's bananas, but it's very intense. By accelerated TMS, what that means is you're getting your brain zapped.
Yeah.
And it's not technically whatever. We don't have to get into zapping. It's using magnetism, but you fucking feel it. Let me make it very clear. You are getting zapped for, and I could be getting some of the specifics wrong, but I've gone through one cycle of this already. You're getting zapped for something like 8.5 to 10 minutes every hour on the hour for 10 hours a day for 5 days straight. So you're doing 50 sessions in 5 days. And it's a hell of a thing. But that is why I was undergoing this psychiatric evaluation, was to determine what the diagnosis was, such that they could try to determine which coordinates to use, basically, in placement of the stimulation. Super, 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 super interesting. But the reason I brought that up is winding all the way back to kind of where we started. I notice really minute details. And that means also every mistake, I could scan a document. I don't know if you're like this, but like I can look at a document that 4 lawyers have reviewed and find stuff.
Wow.
And I just have that ability. I don't know what it is. It's definitely not all blessing. There's a lot of curse to that, but it's like I can scan a document reading very quickly and be like, this clause is off, that punctuation is off, this in minutes, in a way that,
like a living Chat GPT.
Yeah, or a Rain Man in some respects. But that comes with a huge tax.
Yeah.
Right? Because it drives other people crazy.
Right.
And you drive yourself crazy. And so I'm learning to contend with that, which is a way of emphasizing how big a deal it is for me to collaborate in the way that I'm describing.
Yeah.
I will say also that the objective for the creative offsite for me was to try to create a flywheel of collaborative potential, and I'll explain what that means. In other words, I wanted to create enough imagery, enough artwork, also enough scaffolding in terms of world building. So the mythologies, the beliefs, the alliances, the conflicts, the geography, such that I could take all of that and give it as a world Bible of sorts to a writer who's never had any exposure to the realm of Varlata, right? The Legend of Cockpunch. And they would be equipped to write a short story or a module or an adventure for D&D, a campaign, who knows, or a comic book, and have it align with my creative vision for that entire fantasy world, which was a cool challenge. I think it requires a little more time. Those types of creative pushes are often 2 to 3 weeks. 3 weeks seems to be the sweet spot, but that's a huge ask of my time and of everyone's time. And I wanted to make sure that I felt comfortable in a shorter format first,